Hare Krishna. So thank you so much for all of you for coming and listening to the most, authenticated speaker on Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Prabhuji has a vast knowledge on Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, all the Vaishnava scriptures. So it's not new to all of you, but as a duty, I just want to share about his knowledge and what he has been doing for the last 25 years. Prabhuji has been in this movement for the last 25 years. He is serving in various capacities and author more than 25 books, the latest 2 books, 27 books Prabhuji has authored. So you are all well known for his talks, and especially Prabhuji started Gita Daily, the world's only daily Gita program. And also Prabhuji is in the different universities, especially Prabhuji is invited to TEDx talks, and also in all the TEDx universities across the globe, and Prabhuji is giving 4,000 articles on Gita. How many? 4,000 articles on Gita, and Prabhuji gives lectures every year, around 400 lectures across the globe. So, we are extremely fortunate to have His Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhu with all of us today here. We welcome His Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhu by loudly chanting 3 times. Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo. Without any further ado, I'd like to give to Prabhuji to continue this talk. Thank you so much.
So all of you have been given a book. You can go to page 30 in that book and read something from there. Om Jnanatirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhobhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And dear Lord, please guide us all so that we can have faith in your plan, even when none of our plans seem to be working. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for coming today. And today we're going to discuss broadly on the topic of when Krishna seems to be far away. That there are times in our life when we face difficulties. And often, I was a couple of months ago in Delhi, and one devotee came to me and he was telling me that, we often say that when we face difficulties, we should take shelter of Krishna. But he says, my experience is that it is when I face difficulties, that is the time when even Krishna's shelter seems to be missing. That I feel as if I'm taking shelter of Krishna, and as if Krishna's shelter is also not there. So it seems as if when difficulties come, at the same time, Krishna also seems to go away. So I gave some answer to him, but I thought about it that this does sometimes seems to happen. As devotees, there are different kind of losses that we may face in life. So I'll talk about this in three broad parts today. First is, I'll broadly use the acronym FIT, how we can become more fit in our spiritual life. So F is what I'll focus on is on finiteness. How, even if you say you forget everything from this talk, this one point, if you remember that, we are finite beings and we have a finite vision. And our finite vision is not the final vision. Whatever we see, whatever situation we encounter in life, our finite vision is not the final vision. So now this does not mean that our finite vision is false. We have to, whatever vision we have, we of course need to use that vision. So it is primarily because our vision is finite. That's why it's actually a logical consequence is that we need to have faith. But I'll talk about this a little bit more towards faith a little later. Let's go to this particular verse which I told you. So in this book, I have okay. So in this book, I've taken the verses of the Bhagavad Gita and I've used them as inspiration for prayers. That Kulashekar Maharaj at several places seems to be offering prayers that are drawn directly from the verses of the Bhagavad Gita. For example, in the Gita, Krishna says in 12.7, Teshamaham samuddharta mrityu samsara sagarat. He says, those people, I lift them from the ocean of material existence. And Kulashekar Maharaj in Kundmala Stotra says, Samsara sagara nimagnamananta deenam uddharatum arasi hare purushottamosmi. He says that this ocean of material existence is vast and insurmountable. And you, my Lord, please lift me out of this ocean. So the Gita's words, they are also the words of Krishna, which are not different from Krishna. So we can have them as inspirations for prayer. So there is a one-line prayer which is like a spiritual affirmation. And there's a Gita verse which I have translated into poetry. And then we have a verse. We have the prayer inspired by that. So you can repeat after me. With you, my Lord, there are no dead ends. So, those of you comfortable can repeat the verse. Na chaitad vidmah kataranno gariyo yadva jayema yadivano jayeyu yaneva hatva na jijivishamas hatva na jijivishamas te avastita pramukhe dhartarashtraha. We do not know which fate is best, to win or fall in this cruel test. Those whom we wish not to slay stand armed against us in this fatal fray. This is actually expressing Arjuna's plight, where he's just feeling totally lost, not knowing what to do. Do we have a second mic by any chance? Yeah. Would anyone like to read? One paragraph you could read.
Hare Krishna. My dear Lord, when I find myself at the dead end, let me remember that my vision is limited, but your wisdom knows no bounds. No problem is too big for you to solve, even when I am so small that I cannot even conceive of a solution, let alone implement one.
Yes. So we all come to dead ends in life. Now, dead ends can be of different kinds. In general, for us, when we focus in life, we need two things. Now, we need means and we need meaning. Means and meaning. So, means, for example, could be money. For people say earning money is the means, and the meaning is okay, I want to take care of my family, I want to make sure my children get good education, and that is the meaning of life. So in general, for most people, the possessions are the means. The possessions are the means, and the relations are the meaning. So when people want, I want to be more famous, more attractive, more wealthy, so that people will love me more. Generally, we have means and meaning in our life, and both of these are required to drive us. Of course, for some people, it may be that people are the means and possessions are the meaning. It can get upside down also. Well, that means they use people to get to certain goals and then they abandon people. So that's also possible. But so basically, it's like what is more important for us? Something is a tool and something is the end. Now for Arjuna, now in general, we can have many different kinds of loss in life. For us, say for example, we may have loss of means. That is a problem. Simply loss of means means if suddenly they lose their wealth, they lose their reputation. That can be terrible. But we can have loss of meaning. If someone we really care for, somebody, they suddenly depart from the world. What is my life for? What am I meant to do? The most damaging loss is loss of both. If means and meanings both are lost, there's a stock market crash and they lose all their money. And they're on their way home back and they find there's an earthquake which has flattened their house and they lost their entire family. It's a nightmare you can't even imagine. So now when Arjuna is on the battlefield, he is facing a tension between means and meaning. For him, the kingdom is the means. He wants the kingdom, and his elders, especially Bhishma and Drona, their pleasure is one level of meaning for him. So he's torn that which is better. These elders are not just any incidental elders. Bhishma was like a surrogate father for him after his own father passed away. Bhishma was also the person who nurtured his archery talent. And of course, Drona is the person who was his teacher. So he learned archery for their pleasure. On one side is the meaning, the other side is the means. He's a Kshatriya, he needs a kingdom. So he says, which is better? Chaitad vidmaha kataranno gariyo. So now this is the Gita's context. For us as devotees, also, if we consider as devotee. Now in the Mahabharata, that Arjuna is a devotee is significant, but that's much more significant in the Bhagavatam. For us as devotees, our material resources, they are like the means. And our devotional service to Krishna, that is what is the meaning for us. That means we want health, we want wealth, we want reputation, so that we can serve Krishna better. We understand that it's a connection with Krishna that gives us the ultimate meaning in life. So the situation, taking this forward, that say if suddenly somebody loses their wealth, that's a big problem. They're having difficulties. But if at that same time they start feeling that I'm losing my connection with Krishna also. I'm losing my connection with Krishna means we pray to Krishna and we don't feel any kind of devotional connection. We don't feel any taste. We don't feel any higher peace or higher presence or higher purpose. So at that time, for us, if you have to choose between one of them, that's difficult. But if both of them are being lost, then it becomes extremely difficult. So now, why does this happen? That life, when we go through various situations in life, sometimes life is turbulent means that sometimes we lose. Now, interestingly, in Sanskrit, the word for means and for meaning both have the same word artha. Artha can refer to means. Artha can also refer to meaning. Of course, meaning is a bigger artha, but so wealth can be means. For some people, wealth can be the meaning also. So artha is the same word, but the idea is that in the Vedic tradition, there are many arthas. And all the arthas, they culminate. So artha can be for somebody, artha may be health, artha may be wealth, artha may be reputation, and artha may be family. But then there is the paramartha. The paramartha is Krishna. The ultimate reality is Krishna. So for us, when we are going through life, as we face various challenges, we may come to a situation which seems like a dead end. Dead end means that there is just no way ahead. We have come to a particular point and all the paths ahead seem to be just more suffering. And when suffering comes in our life, at that time, we can face the suffering if we feel that we're going through the suffering, I'll come to a better place. But when there just seems to be no way ahead, there seems to be no end to the suffering. For Arjuna, losing the kingdom means that they have assembled the army now. And if they don't win the war now, it's unlikely that they're able to win again. Because their allies who have supported them, all those allies are not necessarily going to come again to support them. And if they lose, Bhishma and Drona is not going to get them back again. They're going to die. So there seems to be just no way ahead for him. So sometimes there's no way ahead means there's no way ahead without some unbearable loss. And at such a time, how does one move ahead? Any of the Vaishnavis like to read the next paragraph? You can pass. You can come back to you once. Only one more. Sorry.
When life brings me to a place where I see no path ahead at all, or when every path that I see leads only to a far worse situation, I find myself utterly unable to avoid distress.
Yes. So if we let there is just distress, whichever direction I go in my life. Can you read the next paragraph also?
Bless me, O Lord, so that I do not sink into despair. Let me not conclude that my finite vision of the situation is the final vision of the situation.
Yes, the point I made, that sometimes people say faith is, faith is irrational. Faith, if you're having faith, you're believing something which you have never seen. You are being illogical. You are abandoning your intelligence. No, that's not at all the point of faith. Faith is not abandoning our intelligence. It is abandoning our belief that our intelligence can reveal everything to us. It is abandoning the idea that our intelligence has a monopoly on understanding of reality. So that's why, if you see, even faith is not rejection of intelligence. That kind of faith is completely unhealthy. And that's why the Gita itself, although Krishna is speaking the Gita and Krishna is God himself, Krishna does not tell Arjuna that Krishna does not demand blind obedience. If Krishna had wanted to demand blind obedience, Krishna could have finished the whole Bhagavad Gita in just 6 words. What are the 6 words? I am God. Obey me. Fight. Bhagavad Gita Sampurnam. Krishna could have done that. But Krishna is not drawing solely on his godhood to demand that Arjuna accept whatever he's saying. Is there an element of faith? Of course, there's an element of faith. The faith is when Arjuna does not have a solution, Arjuna turns to Krishna. Krishna, you have a solution. That when I can't see a solution, that does not mean that there is no solution. So, faith is not rejection of intelligence. It is rejection of the monopoly of intelligence on knowledge. That my intelligence can give me whatever I can see with my intelligence, that is the only reality. That there is more to reality than what I can see. That, as you said, there's more than what meets the eye, something say. So the reality is much more complex. Now, if we consider this idea of intelligence, then it is, like say, if we our vision. So we acknowledge that our vision, we consider it is full, not finite. Now that would be false, because we don't know everything. And it's not just about bhakti or spirituality. In which area of life do we have full vision when we make a decision? When we choose a particular career, how much do we know how that career is going to turn out 10 years, 20 years, 30 years down the line? Then all of you, almost all of you here, have come from India to America. Now, how sure were you at how life would turn out in America? It's an act of faith. So, if we consider when we get married, how much can we know about the other person? Now, at least when we get married, we can try to know something about the other person before we get married. But when we have a child, we can't know anything about the other child before he's born. He or she is born. So actually, all the meaningful activities, truly meaningful activities in our life, they are based on an element of faith. That something is important, we make a decision. And we make a decision based on understanding that we can't know everything. So in no area of life do we demand full vision before we do anything. The full, if I think my vision is full and not finite, I'll be wrong. But because my vision is finite and useless, It's not that our finite vision is useless. Our finite vision is useful, it is valuable. Mhm. We need to use our eyes to see what danger is there. So we understand our vision is finite, not final. What I see is valid, but there is more to reality than what I see. So faith basically means that even when in my perception I don't see any path ahead, that does not mean that there is no path ahead. What it means is that there is more to whatever is happening than what I can see with my eyes. So this understanding is extremely important if we are actually to go ahead in life. See, generally, whether somebody is a theist or an atheist, everybody's life has problems. So atheism, rejection of God. I was once giving a talk in America a few years ago. One boy came to me and he said, I'm currently an atheist. Now, sometimes somebody speaks a sentence, then one word from the sentence stands out. What is the word over here? Currently. so, so naturally, I asked him, okay, what does currently mean? He said that actually, whenever I pray to God, if my prayer is fulfilled, I believe in God. If my prayer is not fulfilled, I stop believing in God. So I told him, with all due respect, normally anyone who begins a sentence with all due respect, that means whatever is going to follow is not going to be very respectful. So I said, with all due respect, that God's existence or non-existence does not depend on his fulfillment or non-fulfillment of his prayers. He either exists or he does not exist. So see, atheism, what does atheism does not remove problems. All that it removes is the hope that problems may have some purpose. Removes the hope that the problems may have some purpose. So problems will be faced even by atheists. But what is not going to happen is, what is the purpose of those problems? Is this whole thing going somewhere? Is there some plan over here? So to me, it seems a dead end. To me, it seems a total mess. But is this whole thing going somewhere? So atheism just removes that hope. So basically for us, in an atheistic worldview, so I'm talking about how our finiteness of our vision can be the basis of our faith. So F is both finiteness and then faith. See, in an atheistic worldview, all of life is just reduced to two things. What is done to me and what is done by me. My whole life is that what is done to me. So people may not treat us properly. Somebody may mislead us. Somebody may exploit us. Somebody may harass us. So what is done to me? So there is, when we have this, what is done to me, is that we often get a lot of resentment. There is negative feeling towards people, towards the world. And the second is what is done by me. And this is where people end up with a lot of regrets in their life. So these two things, we end up with these two negative emotions, resentful and regretful. And neither of these is a very healthy emotion. Oh, this person did terrible to me and I made such a mess of things. And in general, depending on what is the nature of a person, some people have a lot of ego. Now, what is the opposite of ego? Okay, how many of you think it is humility? I was once having this session, says, So practically nobody raised hand. So then I asked, what is the matter? So one person said, we have too much humility to say it is humility. I saw one t-shirt in California last year where one person has written, my greatest quality is my humility. Sometimes you can be proud of your humility. So normally, when we think of the opposite of ego is humility. And to some extent that is true, but it's not the complete picture. The complete picture is not bilateral. It's not that two elements are there. It's trilateral. Trilateral means what? That there are three elements over there. On one side is ego. The other side is not humility, it is insecurity. Insecurity is where ego is, I think I am much better than what I am. And insecurity is, I think I am far worse than what I am. So, ego overestimates oneself. In one sense, ego is Mayavad. Insecurity is Shunyavad. Ego is, I can do everything, I am God. Insecurity is, I can do nothing, I am Shunya. In between these two is humility. So, in humility, what happens is that we are much more understand that Mamaiva Amsho Jivaloki. I am a part of Krishna. I am a part. I'm not the whole, but I'm also not nothing. I am something and I can do some things. So why am I talking about this right now? In general, I'm talking about these two emotions, resentful and regretful. So generally people who have more ego, they become more resentful because they're always looking for someone else to blame. You know, this person did this to me and that person did that to me and that person did that to me. And that is a problem. The people who have too much insecurity, they are very regretful. Oh, you know, I made this mistake and I made that mistake. Okay, you made mistakes, but dwelling on those mistakes is now a mistake, isn't it? Okay, we made a mistake, we're all finite, we will make mistakes in life, but move on with life. So basically what happens when, see, this is the world. This is the material world. And in our worldview, if there is no God, then my whole life story becomes basically what is done to me and what is done by me. And we can be resentful and we can be regretful. Now, what bhakti does, what theism in general and bhakti in particular does is that it expands our picture. That if I am here, above me is God, above is Krishna. And whatever is done to me, there is some divine arrangement behind it. And even what is done by me, there is some divine arrangement in it. Now, but this does not mean that if I do stupid things and I say, oh, you know, God wanted me to do it. No, this is God's plan. Now, we have to use our intelligence. See, it's very important that everything that happens, is it God's will? No.
Yes and no.
Yeah. See, everything that happens is God filtered. God filtered. What does that mean? Everything that happens has gone to the filter of God's permission. But that does not mean it was God's intention. If somebody mistreated me and that person was really mean to me, now that does not mean that God wanted that person to be mean to me. That person wanted to be mean, but God allowed it to happen. So this is where, so that means Krishna must have some plan over here. That Krishna allowed it to happen even when we want to make a mistake. We want to do something wrong. Sometimes we may not be able to do something wrong also, even when we want to do it. It's like somebody, a person decides to rob a bank. And the person goes at night to rob the bank and the car breaks down. So that actually speaking, even when we want to do something, whether it is good or bad, without higher arrangements working out, things won't work out. So everything that happens is God filtered. Upadrashta Anumanta cha. So what Krishna talks about in 13:23, that everything that happens is permitted by him. And if something is permitted by Krishna, that means Krishna can use it in his plan. This is Krishna's expertise. So right now I want to focus maximum time on the faith. Faith element is that, whatever has happened, yes, I made a mess, maybe somebody else made a mess. It's true. But nothing can happen without being filtered by Krishna. And if it is filtered by Krishna, that means it's gone through the God filter. Krishna has allowed it to happen. That means it's still a part of Krishna's plan. It's still a part of Krishna's plan. So faith helps us to see that my life is not just about what is done by me and what is done to me. My life is being guided by Krishna somewhere. And yes, I can make false turns, I can make mistakes, and those mistakes do matter. But the important thing is that we are never thrown out of Krishna's plan. Even when our life, material, as it means, may be lost, spiritually, that connection with Krishna may be lost. But so we may not feel the connection with Krishna. See, we may not find Krishna in our heart. But that does not mean Krishna is not there in our heart. It's just that we are going through a phase where our moods are very strong, where our conditioning has become very thick, because of which we are not able to feel Krishna's presence. And that's okay. But that's where, again, okay, my experience right now is finite. Just because I don't feel Krishna's presence does not mean Krishna does not exist. So my finite vision is not the final vision. There is more to reality than what I'm experiencing right now, what I'm sensing with my intelligence. So basically, what bhakti does is it expands our vision. That yes, this seems to me to be a dead end, but there is more going on over here. Now, what exactly is the more going on? That is something which has to be discovered. But this understanding that there is more going on right now, that itself is very reassuring. So, what is the acronym we are going to discuss? FIT. So if you look at Srila Prabhupada's life, when Srila Prabhupada came to America, he composed this song called Markine Bhagavad Dharma. And there he says, the first line, second line, Ache kichu karja tabe ei anumane, nahi keno yani ben ei ugrasthane. So he's saying, it's interesting the specific words Srila Prabhupada uses. Ache kichu karja. You must have some purpose for me, Krishna. Ei anumane. Anuman. This is my guess. This is my inference. And what is his reason? That otherwise, why would you bring me here? The nature of the mind is that whatever problem we are facing, so all faced many difficult problems in life. Everybody goes through difficult problems. Now, if we ask, which among all the problems that we face in life, which is the toughest problem we face? If we are a little bit in the objective state of mind, we will analyze, okay, that was a really tough problem. But if we are really not in that objective state of mind, the mind's answer generally is Which is the toughest problem in my life? The problem I'm facing right now. The mind tends to exaggerate the problem. So the idea is that if we consider our life journey, we are at a particular place in our life journey. So what Srila Prabhupada is saying is, Krishna, you have brought me this far. You brought me to the coast of America. You not brought me this far to abandon me now. So we all have survived many dangers. And it's quite reasonable that some of the dangers in our past, some of the problems in our past are much bigger than the problem we are facing right now. And yes, we use our intelligence, we did various things to deal with the problem, but things worked out eventually. So Krishna has brought us this far. Krishna has brought us this far. Now, he has not brought us this far to abandon us now. If he had wanted to abandon us, he could have abandoned us long ago. So if he has brought us this far, the question is, why will he abandon us now? Why will he abandon us now? Is it that when we are going through life, is it that now Krishna says, you have done something so terrible now that now you're out of my plan? No, it's not like that. Have any of you heard of this GPS? I was giving this talk to some teenagers. What is this? Have you heard of anyone who has not heard of GPS? So when I'm talking about GPS, it is God's positioning system. So now we can compare this with our GPS. Say, if GPS tells us turn left and we turn right, what does the GPS do? GPS reroutes. Does the GPS say, you didn't obey me, get lost? Now, GPS does not do that. GPS has all the territory mapped out. Now, there might be some remote corner, maybe in the Thar Desert or the Sahara Desert or Antarctica, where GPS also does not work. But God's position system is everywhere. Now, if we take a wrong turn, now for Krishna, he can use everything in his plan because he has the entire territory mapped out. Now, every turn matters. If you're taken a wrong turn, GPS can still reroute and take us toward the destination. But each wrong turn will mean that time will be wasted, energy will be wasted. So it's not that we just say, oh no, wrong turns don't matter. They matter. But they matter, they are not fatal. They have consequences, but the consequences is not that it's totally everything is lost. So in that sense, our life, say sometimes we may take a wrong turn, sometimes somebody may mislead us. And because of that, we may take a wrong turn. But either way, we are still within the GPS. So like that, everything that happens to us is God filtered. God filtered means that whatever we are going through, it would not happen without Krishna's plan. So that means Krishna has some plan. That does not mean that that thing that happened is necessarily good. If it could have been avoided, that might have been better. But now that has happened, there is no need to be regretful or resentful. See, if you consider the Pandavas, it's in life, it's very difficult to know what is the right thing to do. And the first time Bhima was poisoned, he survived and he came back and he said, I'm going to teach Duryodhana a lesson. He just wanted to beat Duryodhana to powder, to pulp, not powder. But anyway, Yudhishthira told him that, you don't have any evidence. It'll just be your word against his word. And we are new over here. We don't know which family members will support us. We don't want to split our family right now. Actually, if you study the Mahabharata, it's very difficult to imagine two brothers who are as different as Yudhishthir and Bhima. If you consider Yudhishthir was you could call a Brahman Kshatriya. That means he was very interested in philosophy, wisdom, and he almost bent backwards to avoid fighting. So that was Yudhishthir. Now, if you consider Bhima was a Kshatriya. You could say he was a Kshatriya squared. He was itching for a fight. So now, who is right, who is wrong? Now, could it be that if Bhima had put the fear of God into Duryodhana at that time, had really beaten him and taught him a lesson, would Duryodhana have not gone on that dark track that he went? Maybe it's possible. Maybe it's also possible that Duryodhana would have gone on the dark track faster. You bet me up, I will teach you more. So who knows? See, in life, there is no guarantee that the decision that we make will be the right decision. Sometimes some decisions, they just turn out a particular way and then we realize that they are wrong decisions. So when Shurpanakha propositioned herself to Ram, now Ram and Lakshman both wanted to give her like a gentle landing. Normally it is a man who proposes to a woman. If a woman proposes to a man, for her, she's putting herself in a very vulnerable situation. And for her ego, to take a no is very difficult. So both of them were trying to make a gentle no to her. Ram said, I'm already married. You'll be the second wife. You'll have to serve my first wife. But you go to Lakshman. And Lakshman said that, actually, I am the servant of Rama and Sita. If you marry me, you'll have to serve all three of us. So now both of them were trying to gently say no to her. But she, instead of taking that as a no, she arrived at a conclusion. Why are both of them saying no? Because of Sita. So it is sometimes, history is portrayed as like men exploited women or a gender war. It's quite often it's women who turn against women also. Isn't it? No, it's a Shurpanakha who weaponized Sita. First, she tried to attack Sita, and then she incited Ravan to get Sita so that she could get back at Ram. So the thing is that the anarthas. So now, were Ram and Lakshman wrong at that time? It's difficult to say. They did what they thought was the best in that situation. Now we can say they are God, and whatever God does is perfect. That's a transcendental way of looking at it. If you look at the way in terms of consequences, certain choices, sometimes only when the results come, we understand this is a wrong choice. Till that time, we can't even know. So that's why if we understand that there is a bigger plan, so my life is not just about my actions and my choices, or what others have done to me or what I have done. Those are important, but there is much more to life than that. That is what actually acknowledging the finiteness opens us to faith, that there is more to life than what I see. And that's how I may see a dead end over here, but there is not necessarily a dead end over here. So we are never thrown out of God's positioning system. That's the first point. The first point was quite long. The 2 points remaining. These points will be even longer. So no, they won't be so long. So now, once we have faith, see, faith means that there is some big picture, that there is some bigger plan. After we have faith, the Bhagavad Gita says, Shraddhaval labhate jnanam. So after we have faith, then the next step is we need to use our intelligence. It is not that we abandon our intelligence. It is faith first and intelligence later. It is not intelligence first and faith later. It is like the intelligence first and faith later means that, I've tried everything, nothing is working. Therefore, I come to you, God. Krishna is happy that we come to him at that time also. But that is Krishna's kindness. So Krishna says, Ma Manusmara Yudhyaja. First, you remember me. Remember that there is a bigger plan over here. Remembrance of Krishna is not just, oh, there's a bluish black cowherd boy who performs pastimes. That's true. But Krishna is the governing principle of existence. So once we have faith, then that governing principle of existence has given me some intelligence. So with my intelligence, let me do the best that I can. So in many ways, when we are going through dark phases, so faith that there is some big picture. Although I cannot see the big picture, there is some big picture over here. Now the intelligence is for small steps. Small steps of what I can do in this particular situation. So small steps means that ultimately, I went over here earlier, I talked about this particular pendulum. Yeah. So if we have humility, we won't be resentful, we won't be regretful, we will be resourceful. Now, resourceful does not mean that we have to be full of resources. It means that we fully use whatever resources we have. We fully use whatever resources we have. So ultimately, Krishna is our well-wisher. Krishna wants us to be in a better place. Krishna wants us to be happy. Krishna wants our welfare. So when I talk about intelligence, intelligence means in the situation we are facing, what is it that we can do that will make things better? Once Krishna, you have some bigger plan, and now within that bigger plan, Krishna, what role am I meant to play? Now, I don't see any bigger plan over here. I don't see any role over here. What am I to do? Then simply resourceful means that ultimately we all have to make a choice that do we want to become bitter or do we want to make things better? That is a choice we have all the time. This is bitter is more internally bitter, or we want to make things externally better. Of course, internally we have to make things better. So in any situation, you may say, I don't see any way to make things better. Okay. Can you see ways to make things worse? Say, who wants to make things worse? Things are terrible. But can you see ways to make things worse? Yeah. No matter how bad things are, we never lose the power to make them worse. Now, what this means is, like some people might suddenly get a sickness. They're young, healthy, active, and suddenly they get a sickness and they're bedridden. It's terrible. It's frustrating for them. But I have a friend who is a nurse, a male nurse. So he told me that some people, when they get sick, they make their caregivers sick of them. They're constantly complaining, blaming. Now, and one level is understandable, they are in pain, but it's like, see, life can put us in pain, but we don't have to become a pain. Isn't it? That's two different things. Life can put us in pain, but when we become a pain, that is far worse. So now, okay, I may be sick, but I can choose that, okay, I'll try to be polite. I'll try to be grateful to whoever is taking care of me. It may be difficult, but at least the atmosphere around me will be warm. To some extent, the atmosphere, my own consciousness will be better. So that is ultimately the choice each one of us has. When I'll give 3 examples of this quickly to illustrate this principle, because this is such an important principle that we need to, whatever be the bad situation we are in, we can use our intelligence over there. So when Abhimanyu was killed, when Arjuna came to know about it, Arjuna was shattered. And when he was shattered, Arjuna went through various emotions. Now, the first was shock that Abhimanyu is dead. Then there was pain. Then there was guilt. Why guilt? He felt, I'm a warrior, I'm a protector. I couldn't protect my own son. He's thinking that when Abhimanyu was nearly dying, he must have called out to me. Like a child would naturally call out to the father. He called out to me. He says, fly on me. And I went in pursuit of my own glory and I got sidetracked. I was not there. Now, from guilt, after that came anger. And that anger was directed towards his brothers. He said, are all your weapons just ornaments? Could not one of you protect my son? When he spoke those words, especially they were directed at Bhima and Yudhishthir. And their faces look like they have been hit by whips. So at that time, Krishna pulled Arjuna into a side hug. Krishna told Arjuna, "O Partha, in this world, bad things happen to everyone, the wise people and the unwise people. The difference is that when bad things happen, the unwise people act in ways that make things worse. And the wise people act in ways that make things better." He says, "Oh, Partha, look at your brothers' faces. Due to the death of Abhimanyu, they are in pain just as you are. Please don't speak words that will increase their pain." So, if we can't decrease the pain, let us not increase the pain. Just because we are in pain, that does not mean we have to become a pain. So, we have that choice. Even if I say that I don't know how to make things better, I know what will make things worse. And let me avoid that. So intelligence is about taking small steps. See, when Krishna's plan is there, I understand that what I'm seeing is not the full picture. There is something bigger going on. Now, okay, there is some plan of Krishna. Now, what is the plan of Krishna? And that it is very difficult for us to know. So Krishna's plan is that we use our intelligence, and we do our best. We can consult his words in the Bhagavad Gita. We can consult his devotees, senior devotees, our spiritual master, to get some inputs. There is some plan does not necessarily mean we know what is the plan. It is that even for Srila Prabhupada, there is no evidence that like Prabhupada had a hotline to Krishna. And when Prabhupada was talking with anybody, Krishna was telling from within the heart, this person is not going to be a devotee. Don't waste time on this person. This person is going to be a devotee. Spend more time on this person. No, this place, people are not going to become devotees. That place, people are going to become devotees. No, it was not like that. Prabhupada did the best that he could using the intelligence that he had. He saw who seemed more interested, more serious, and he reciprocated. Sometimes people lived up to his expectation. Many times people didn't. The thing is, we use our intelligence to do the best possible thing that we can. So, when most of you know that I have polio, I need crutches for walking. So when I was one, my mother, we lived in a small town in Maharashtra, and my mother took me to a nearby clinic to get the polio vaccine. And somehow there was a power outage in that clinic the previous night. And the fridge in which the vaccine had been kept, its temperature had risen too much. So neither the attendant nor the physician noticed that. And because the temperature being raised, the germs in the vaccine multiplied. And when I was given that vaccine, instead of preventing polio, it ended up causing polio. Now, I don't remember this. I was just one at that time learning to walk. I fell down, I couldn't walk normally. So I have one uncle who is settled in America now. So when he came to know what his first response was, he said, sue the doctor, sue the clinic. And I traveled all over the world. And America is the only country where I've seen advertisements for lawyers. In Los Angeles, I saw advertisement. Just advertisement had only 4 words. Who has hurt you? There are these injury lawyers, and they call sometimes called ambulance chasers. So anyway, so my father is one of the calmest persons that I know. His favorite was from the Bhagavad Gita is Sthita Prajna. So he told me his idea is like a stoic. So he said that the Indian legal system is such that before the case comes for hearing, we'll probably be old. And he said, what is the, now that the polio is there, what can we do? We just have to deal with it. So he accepted that. Now, he of course took very good care of me. I remember that when I was about 2.5 or 3, some distant relative had come to our home and she was consoling my mother, saying, it's so sad, your son got polio. And I remember my mother's voice, very calm, clear, confident. She said, whatever he lacks physically, God will provide him intellectually. So now I don't know why she said that, but somehow that stayed with me. Not the God part, the intellectually part, at least initially. And yes, I did find that things, that yes, when I started growing, I couldn't play outdoor games like other kids could play. So I could say that this physical disability is unfair. And that's true. But then as I started growing up, I started reading. I noticed that I could read things quickly. I could remember things well. I could articulate things clearly. So somewhere at the back of my mind settled that what did I do to deserve this intellectual ability then? So life is unfair, but in the big picture, it is fairly unfair. Fairly unfair means sometimes we get worse than what we deserve, and sometimes we get better than what we deserve. So if, wow, I'm getting worse than what I deserve now. What happened here? Okay. So, if we look at how life is unfair, that's how we'll become resentful. But if we look at how life is fair, there's a greater chance that we can be resourceful. So, this may not be good, but something good can come out of this. So, we need to use our intelligence to move forward. Sometimes it may be that God's plan is we accept the situation and make the best out of it. Sometimes it may be that we fight and change the situation. I know one devotee in Florida, he's my god brother. So he when his wife was pregnant, at that time there's some emergency. They took her to the NICU, and then there's some mess up that the hospital did, and because of that, the daughter was born. She had cerebral palsy and a lot of other medical issues. So it was not medical malpractice, but it was definitely medical negligence. So then he wrote to His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj and asked, this has happened. He's himself a son of a Prabhupada disciple. So he wrote to Maharaj and he said, Maharaj, this has happened. Should we accept this as our karma or should we sue the hospital? So Maharaj replied that whatever has happened, you need to accept it, but you need to accept the responsibility of taking care of your daughter. And if you can get any support, any assistance in executing your responsibility, you should go ahead and get that support. So then he sued the hospital, and because it was a clear case of medical malpractice, they settled out of court. Not malpractice, negligence. They settled out of court. And this got a fairly, at least financially, he doesn't have to worry about his daughter's care for her life. Now, of course, this doesn't change that what happened to her was terrible. But the point here is that in some situations, we may decide that I will accept the situation and move. Some situations, we may decide I'll fight the situation. Which is right, which is wrong? It's very difficult to know. So you could say we have to use our intelligence to assess. In America, the legal system is such that you can sue hospitals, and the court cases do work out in favor of people wronged. In India, it's much more difficult. So what is accepting the situation the right thing? Is fighting the situation the right thing? It depends on Desha Kala Patra, time. So we use our intelligence to do what we can to fix the situation, take small steps in that direction. So faith means that even if we can't see the full path, we are ready to take small steps forward. That is faith means there is a big path, although I can't see that big path. But the intelligence is I'll take the small step that I can see. So our faith, as I said, I go back over here. Faith is that there is a big picture, there is a big path. I can't see that big path right now, although I believe it is there. I can't see the full path ahead, but I can see the small steps. So that's why I said it's not that our finite vision is useless. With our finite vision, sometimes we have to use our intelligence to do the best that we can. Is it a guaranteed that that will be the right thing? Maybe, maybe not. But we use our intelligence to make the best. We pray to Krishna, Krishna, with my intelligence, this is what seems to be the best to me. If you want me to do something else, please guide me accordingly. So we have faith and we have intelligence. Both of these are required. Our finite vision is not our final vision. We'll just quickly move through this. Who would like to read the next paragraph? Anyone? Yeah. Since when?
Just now.
Oh, just now. Okay. I thought you were all having fun at my expense all this time. Okay. Okay, you can read, please.
You see far more than what I see, my Lord, and where my eyes fail to see a way forward, bless me so that I can see faith in your wisdom. Nothing is a dead end for you, O Lord.
Okay. So, nothing is a dead end for you, for oh Lord. Can you go ahead? Somebody else would like to read? Want to read something? Let's finish this.
Everything is a developing means.
Yes, nothing is a dead end, but everything is a developing means. Krishna is using it.
Through all things, you bring auspiciousness and ultimately bring me to you, the source and shelter of the supreme auspiciousness.
Yes. Read the last paragraph.
When all options seem to be losing options, you, my Lord, remain the ever-winning option.
Yes. Yatra Yogeshwara Krishno, Yatra Partho Dhanurdhara, Tatra Shrir Vijayo Bhutir. So for us, we have our faith, we have our intelligence, and then T is transcendence. Now, there's a difference between faith and transcendence. Transcendence is where by our practice of bhakti, we learn to transcend the situation. We all need to experience Krishna. That is what our sadhana does for us. In general, when you talk about spiritual growth, today morning I was giving a class on how do we know that whether we are spiritually advancing or not. See, normally what happens for us, the world is very big initially and God is very small. When I was introduced to Bhakti about 30 years ago, I started talking about it to everyone. So one of my uncles told me that I and God have a very good relationship. I said, really? I'd never seen him go to any temple or talk anything about religious or God. What is the relationship? He said, mutual non-interference. He is happy there, I am happy here. So we often think that God is irrelevant. God is so small that he's irrelevant. But as we grow spiritually, initially the world is big for us and God is small. But as we grow spiritually, the world becomes small and Krishna becomes big for us. So for us, transcendence means that we need to have some experience that there is a bigger reality than what I perceive in my life. That now we all, sometimes we come to a temple, we go to a holy place, Sometimes we hear some deep class or hear some sweet pastime. We participate in a ecstatic kirtan. We all get some experience where the world doesn't seem to matter at all. It's almost as if we are transported to some other domain. So our sadhana is not just a matter of fulfilling a ritual or doing a certain number of things. It is more a matter of connecting with Krishna and experiencing, first of all, that there is another reality, and that reality is the bigger reality. So that will happen with practice. So faith is good, intelligence is also good. But what is the last part? Shraddhava labhate jnanam tatparah sanyate indriya jnanam labhva param shantim achirena adhigacchati param shantim. That once we experience that transcendence, we experience that there is a bigger reality. So faith is, we are not yet experienced it, there is some big picture. Intelligence is that I am taking small steps over here for dealing with the situation the best I can. But while I am taking small steps, I also need to invest some time in some practices that connect me with Krishna. Even if I don't feel connected at that time, still we need to keep doing the practices. We will experience the connection. That's why for us, when we are practicing bhakti, we can have an array of practices. Bhakti is now vidha is there. So many practices in bhakti. There are so many services are there that when we want to study books also, we don't have just one book. We have so many books. We want to hear classes, there are so many devotees. We want to take darshan of the deities. We have our temple deities, but there are so many temple deities are there. So the idea is that yena kena prakarena mana Krishna niveshayet. Some manifestation of transcendence we'll be able to connect. And we hold on to that manifestation of transcendence by which we get that experience. There is a bigger reality. And once we have that experience of the bigger reality, then however things work out at the physical level, at the external level, sometimes they will be wonderfully successful. Sometimes they may not be successful. If we look at, I'll conclude with this point, we look at Srila Prabhupada's life itself. See, we can have broadly this 4-quadrant diagram that we are, there is material prosperity. There is material prosperity, that is the means. Materially good things are happening to us, and there is material adversity or scarcity. And we are spiritually connected or we are spiritually disconnected. So now if we consider these 4 quadrants, which is the best quadrant to be in? Sorry? 1, 2, 3, 4. Which one? 4? Okay. So we have material prosperity and we are spiritually connected with Krishna. So to be materially prosperous and to be spiritually disconnected, is that good? No. If you are materially also in scarcity, spiritually also disconnected, that's terrible. So if you are spiritually connected and have material scarcity, well, that's difficult, isn't it? So like I have a devotee friend who says that whenever he quotes this Kunti's verse, Vipada Santu Tashashat, he says, Krishna, I'm quoting this verse, I'm not offering this prayer. Please give me more problems. Kunti is praying. So now the best situation would be we're spiritually connected and we are also having material prosperity. Material things are good for us. So the word prosperity is uncomplicated. Material things are favorable or unfavorable for us. So if you see now among all these 4 quadrants, it is, if each of these could be described in one word. If you have material prosperity without spiritual connection, then we will become prideful. We'll become full of pride. Right? So I have achieved so many great things. I am great. I am the greatest. Ishwaro aham aham bhogi siddho aham balwan sukhi. Krishna talks about in 16th chapter of the Gita. This is 16.14.15. That we become prideful. And we see this happens to many people when they're successful, they become quite prideful. Now, if we have neither material prosperity nor spiritual connection, that is when we'll become resentful. This Krishna talks about this in 1835 in the Bhagavad Gita. He talks about Yaya Swapnam Bhayam Shokam Vishadam Madamevacha Navimunjati Durmedha Dhruti Sapartha Tamasi. So, this is definitely an unhealthy state to be in. Now, if we are having material prosperity and we have spiritual connection, then we can be grateful that it is Krishna has worked things out for us. We can be grateful to Krishna. So this is the state which Krishna talks about in 1878. Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna, Yatra Partho Dhanurtar. But it is possible that we can be spiritually connected, still we may have material adversity, material scarcity, material things can be unfavorable. At that time, we can be graceful. Graceful is tattenu kampam susamikshamano. If we accept that Krishna, you still have a plan, you are being merciful to me. So, tams titikshasva bharata. We learn to gracefully tolerate that situation. That's 2.14. So, each of these is a different stage. And if we consider, if we have material prosperity, if we are spiritually disconnected, all of these, both of these states are actually inauspicious for us. Now, the entire thing is like poison because you're disconnected from Krishna. But being in material prosperity is like sweet poison. Being in material adversity is like bitter poison. But both are poison. On the other hand, being connected with Krishna is like nectar. Now, being connected with Krishna while having materially comfortable things, that is like sweet nectar. Having material problems is like bitter nectar. It is still nectar, but it is bitter. So if we look at Srila Prabhupada's life, so what was Srila Prabhupada's life situation? That if we consider, when did he meet his spiritual master? When did he meet Bhaktivedanta Thakur? Anyone knows? Which? 1922. So from 1920, if you consider Srila Prabhupada's life, 1922 to almost 1968. 66 he started ISKCON, but didn't really take off. But 68 when he came back, afterwards thing took off. Prabhupada was trying so many things in Krishna's service, but nothing was working. Even when Prabhupada was just a lone, unknown Swami walking on the streets of New York, whoever met him, Prabhupada was never bitter. He had tried so many things and so many things had failed. Prabhupada was still happy chanting Krishna's name, speaking about Krishna. So he was graceful. Now, from 68 to 77, Prabhupada experienced spectacular success. He went around 14 times on the world tour. He had 108 temples. He had 70 books written. Extraordinary success. Now, Prabhupada was always grateful. He sometimes would be asked, Swamiji, how did you do all this? And Prabhupada would give credit to Guru and Krishna. He said, Krishna is all attractive. I just presented Krishna and he attracted everyone. So Prabhupada was humble and grateful. But the big test is, about 4 or 5 months ago, this thought struck me, and since then it has always been with me whenever I look at Srila Prabhupada in any temple or anywhere. There is one project on which Prabhupada worked harder than anything else. Which was the project? Juhu. In Mumbai, he was building a temple. It was almost like a war. There were thugs who came and attacked devotees, and if you read the story of that time, it's quite a thrilling story. So Prabhupada fought a war. Now, if you look at the history of the Juhu project, Does anyone know the Jew temple when it was inaugurated? See, it was inaugurated on Sankranti, Jan 14, 1978. Now, when did Srila Prabhupada depart from the world? 77. November 14, 1977. So just 2 months, Prabhupada could have prayed to Krishna, Krishna, just let me stay for some time. Now, Prabhupada had actually got the deities to come and stay in a tent, and he said, Krishna, you stay here, I'll build a temple for you. He said, Krishna, I made a promise to you, I want to fulfill this promise. Prabhupada could have said that to Krishna. And this was for Krishna's sake only. But a few days before he departed, Prabhupada was asked, Swamiji, do you have any last desires? The life member who asked him, quite close to him, Prabhupada replied, Kuch ichha nahi. I have no desire. Now, does that mean Prabhupada didn't have the desire that the temple be inaugurated? Would Prabhupada have not liked that he would have been able to? Definitely he would have. But when Prabhupada saw that Krishna is calling him back, his body was falling apart, Prabhupada accepted that. So, just because material things were not working out, Prabhupada did not become bitter toward Krishna. So, we could say that finally, from here, again in 77 towards the end, Krishna brought Prabhupada over here. The project on which he invested the most, just 2 lousy months away, you could say. What difference would have made it? If Prabhupada, Krishna had just let Prabhupada stay. But Prabhupada was ready to accept Krishna as well. Krishna has a plan, and this is not just my movement, this is Krishna's movement. And if Krishna, I'm an instrument, if Krishna wants, he will use me as an instrument. If not, Krishna will use someone else as an instrument. The mission will go on. So Prabhupada, one devotee, Mataji asked me this question, I spoke on this. Why was Krishna so cruel to Prabhupada? Why didn't Krishna allow Prabhupada to stay? So I said that Krishna was not cruel, or that can seem like that. No, Krishna wanted Prabhupada to teach a different lesson. And that is how to depart in Krishna consciousness. Even we can have regrets about our material life. Sometimes we can have regrets about our spiritual life also. But at the time of death, we just want remembrance of Krishna. Even if you have done some services wrong or some services not worked out, if you made some mistakes, we can apologize. We can try to clear the air. But eventually, our service to Krishna, or not our service to Krishna, our attachment to a particular service to Krishna should not become more than our attachment to Krishna. So, that is what the lesson that Krishna wanted Prabhupada to teach. And Prabhupada accepted that, okay, this temple is not going to be inaugurated, but this is the lesson you want me to teach Krishna? Accept that. So, Prabhupada was graceful. In our life, when our material life is going on well, and even our devotional life, we are getting some results, whether it is in terms of externally, our services are producing results, we're getting appreciated internally, we are feeling attracted to Krishna, and we are feeling enrichment and joy. That's wonderful. That is the time we can be grateful. But there can be times when things don't seem to work out. At that time, whether materially they don't work out and spiritually they don't seem to be working out, that time we don't lose hope. We don't become resentful, or we certainly don't become prideful. We stay graceful at that time. So that is possible. So while material prosperity is important, the spiritual connection is even more important. And when we have that spiritual connection, we have that transcendence, then we can go through even the toughest of situations without ever feeling that there is a dead end. But even through the darkest of phases, Krishna will take us ahead. So I'll summarize what I discussed today. I was talking about when Krishna seems far away, when we are going through tough times, how do we deal with that? So I talked about 3 main points. What is the acronym? Faith. So F was faith. So I talked about faith. The basis of our faith is understanding that our finite vision is not the final vision. That there is more to this picture than what I can see. There is a big picture. Now, this does not mean that a finite vision is valueless, but it is a finite vision. So, this is the point on which I spent a lot of time. See, without faith, if there is no faith, then what happens is our life just becomes reduced to two things: what I have, what is done by me, and what is done to me. So, if I feel what is done to me is bad, then we become resentful. And what is done by me is bad, then we become regretful. So, but our life is not just about this. There is, with faith, what happens? We see there is a bigger picture. That bigger picture is that yes, what is happening to me is there in this world, but there is Krishna above me. And whatever is done to me, there is some plan of Krishna in it. And even whatever is done by me, there is some plan of Krishna in it. Basically, everything that happens in life is God filtered. God filtered. That it has gone through the filter, therefore, it is a part of God's plan. So, there I discussed about how we are never thrown out of the divine GPS. That this GPS, God's positioning system, it's always on. All the territories mapped out. So, that gives us a bigger picture. Then I was intelligence. So, we leave the big picture to Krishna, but that doesn't mean we leave everything to Krishna. We have to take small steps. Whatever we can, Krishna told Arjuna that the unwise people make things worse. The wise people make things better. So small steps, whatever we think, what can make things better in this situation? We try to do those things, or at least we avoid doing the things that will make things worse. So we make things better. So I talked here about there's two extremes. There can be ego, where we tend to blame others, that will make us resentful. When there is insecurity, which is the opposite of ego, we become regretful. We are basically to what is done. Here the focus is what is done by me. There, what is the focus on? What is done to me. But if you have humility, then what happens? We become resourceful. That what can I do to make things better in this situation? And sometimes it may involve fighting the situation. Sometimes it may involve accepting the situation. It depends on, in life, we can't always know in advance what is the right choice. And even I talked example from Ramayana and Mahabharata, we could go back and say, what the Pandavas did, was it the right thing? Maybe it could have something else. But we make the best of what we can. So we discussed how this whole theme of finite vision, we say our finite is final. That is the ego. Okay, wow. Still not coming? Okay, let me see what I could do about this. Has it become disconnected? It's funny. It's still not coming. Yeah, it should come now. So the finite vision is not the final vision. So to think that finite is final, that is ego. The insecurity is that the finite vision is useless. But the finite vision, we use it to do the best that we can in the situation that we have. And the last part was transcendence. Transcendence is where we understand that actually, still not coming. Okay. So anyway, I'll just keep writing. Something will come over there. So our finite vision is not the final vision, but at the same time, finite vision is not useless. It is because ultimately it is God who has given us our intelligence. We can boost our intelligence by consulting devotees, by reading scriptures. We use finite cautiously. Prabhupada tried out, Krishna, you must have some plan. You're not brought me here to abandon me. The last part was transcendence. The transcendence means that with faith, we understand there's a big picture. With intelligence, we take small steps. But we need to experience transcendence. That means that we need to have some practice of sadhana bhakti, some devotional practice by which the world becomes smaller and Krishna becomes bigger for us. So then we discussed about this final graph, that we want things to be materially favorable for us, material prosperity, but we also want to be spiritually connected. So we discussed those four quadrants. We don't want to be prideful, that is what will happen if I'm materially favorable, but we're not spiritually connected. We don't want to be resentful. If we are resourceful, then we can either be grateful if things are working out, but if things are not working out, we can still be graceful. We can still be absorbed in Krishna, knowing that Krishna is still with us. We discussed how Srila Prabhupada's life. He was graceful for so much of his life and nothing was working out. He was grateful that things were working out. And then finally, his biggest dream didn't work out. Prabhupada was still graceful. And that is the glory of Srila Prabhupada. He has given us the example of how to face life's challenges. So let's repeat. Let's pray to Krishna that he give us the intelligence, to give us the faith and the intelligence and the transcendence by which we can go through difficult situations. You can repeat after me. With you, my Lord, there are no dead ends. When all options seem to be losing options, my dear Lord, you remain the ever winning option. Shri Krishna Bhagwan ki, Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanande. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Are there any, apart from the question whether that will come back or not? Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Guruji, for this wonderful session. Very insightful and very applicable. My question is, Guruji, about the intelligence. When you mentioned about taking small steps, many times what happens is our intelligence gets obscured because of the situation or because of the time and things like that. So in that stage of life, how do one get the direction? I think you also mentioned that one should take guidance of devotees and their instructions. But
See, there is one thing is the world is a confusing place. It can be a confounding place at times. And even when Krishna was with Arjuna, it was not that Krishna was guiding Arjuna all the time. Arjuna was making his own decisions. Not that before shooting every arrow, Arjuna was asking Krishna, do I have your permission to shoot this arrow? No, he was not worried. Is shooting this arrow a part of Krishna's plan or not? He was using his intelligence, he had his experience. So we sometimes have to accept that we will make mistakes. And we just do the best that we can. That's the risk in life. Srila Prabhupada tried many things, and some things worked, and many did not work. So was it that those devotees who worked on the projects for Srila Prabhupada which were successful, and they become very famous? Those devotees who worked for Srila Prabhupada on projects that were not very successful, or projects that turned out to be failures, does that mean that now sometimes they may have made mistakes, sometimes the circumstances didn't work out? That's why the project didn't become successful. So is it that Prabhupada would be less pleased with them? Prabhupada would naturally be pleased that some projects work out, but he would see people's dedication. And even if some devotees are such that the material vision, Prabhupada didn't know about it. Krishna knows. So, in general, a devotee has both certainty and uncertainty. Certainty that Krishna has a plan. Like Prabhupada, on one side, he said, we know that there are many temples, there are temples and they're filled with devotees. Only time is separating us. So Prabhupada had that conviction, that certainty. But then Prabhupada also didn't know how much time is separating, isn't it? So in bhakti, there is always a combination of certainty and uncertainty. There's certainty in the principle that Krishna has a plan, that Krishna will protect, Krishna will take us to a better place. But there's uncertainty about how exactly that's going to happen. So how do we, if we try to go too much towards certainty, either we will become very arrogant, thinking that this what I'm doing is Krishna's plan. No, it's not that we can put on a sticker on our forehead. I am doing Krishna's plan. All of you cooperate quietly. No, you cannot know that for sure. Now, many of the worst things in the world have been done by people who were convinced that they were doing God's plan. Those people can become very fanatical, intolerant. They think I am doing God's will. But there has to be a certain level of humility. We can never know what is God's will. So if we go towards too much certainty, we'll go towards fanaticism. We'll become very intolerant towards everyone else. But if we focus too much on uncertainty, then we'll become paralyzed. I don't know what Krishna's plan is. I don't know how things are going to work out. So what can I do? I can't do anything. So what the balance between certainty and uncertainty is curiosity. A devotee always has curiosity. So Prabhupada was so convinced that preaching is what his spiritual master wanted him to do. But when an ordinary postman told him, Swamiji, you're writing magazines, people will throw away magazines. You should write some books that will stay for a longer time. I was like, yeah, this makes sense. Prabhupada didn't say, who do you think you are to tell me? I'm a sannyasi, I'm an initiate disciple, I have so much knowledge. So Prabhupada had openness to learning. So curiosity. Krishna can give us signals, Krishna can give us directions, and Krishna can open channels for us. So in many ways, bhakti, the practice of bhakti is like becoming a personal scientist. Personal scientist means what? That we treat our life like a science experiment. We do various things. Okay, this works out, this doesn't work out. You have that approach. It is a little what of a clinical approach. You want to have a personal relationship with Krishna, that is true. But with respect to how things work out in the world, it's more of a clinical approach. If this works, move forward. If it doesn't work, then move somewhere else. So that way, we can keep moving ahead in life. Thank you. Yes, Prabhu.
Please accept my humble obeisance, solution, Prabhupada, very enlivening thought process and realizations. So I just had one question that Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that Sarvadharma Parityaja, that give up all varieties of Dharma and just surrender. So of to Bhakti Adhikar, because according to Adhikar that one has in Bhakti, to that extent, person has realization that, as you mentioned, that the transcendental experience, and then like many times, many devotees also experience that when they have one transcendental, that one is so it carries them and it determination to to go beyond their normal thought process, their normal level of thinking, feeling, willing for Krishna. So I'm sorry, this is a little complicated, but
Yeah. So what is full surrender? Well, mm, surrender itself has two distinct aspects to it. Surrender has one aspect. See, Draupadi surrendered to Krishna by raising her arms. Hmm. Now, Krishna called upon Arjuna to surrender, and Arjuna also surrendered. Did Arjuna surrender by raising his arms? No, Arjuna surrendered by raising his arms, by raising his weapons, raising his bow. So basically, surrender has two distinct aspects to it. If you consider that Krishna is here, we are here in this world. So one aspect of surrender is that what is happening to us, we accept God's will. Hmm? So what is happening, we accept it as God's will. But another aspect of surrender is that we accept the responsibility to do God's will. So in the case of Arjuna, what happened was that it was Krishna wanted him to become an instrument in the fight. Nimitta matram bhavasavyasachi. So both can be surrender. That means what is happening, Krishna, I accepted, that is surrender. What I am doing, I can also do it in the mood of surrender. So for example, when finally his body collapsed, then Srila Prabhupada accepted what was happening as Krishna's will and showed us how to do that. But then throughout his life, he was accepting the responsibility to do God's will. He was traveling vigorously even when his age was quite advanced. So surrender can be both sides. And ultimately, surrender is very important bhakti, but bhakti is about a relationship with Krishna. And that's why if somebody cannot accept a particular situation because it's too painful for them, it's too frustrating for them, then forcing them to surrender and accept that situation, now that would be counterproductive. Surrender, so we can say that there is accepting God's will and is accepting the responsibility to God's will. So we can look at it in two ways. Now, if you consider the Bhagavad Gita, 2.13 is a well-known verse. That is, Tam Sitikshasva Bharata. That is tolerance. No, that is 2.14, sorry. Now, before that, tolerance is very important. But before that, Krishna actually is Dehinosmin Yatha Dehe. That is intelligence. Now, before we can tolerate, we need to have intelligence. Now, what does intelligence mean? It means to know what are the big things in life and what are the small things in life. So, for example, Krishna is telling Arjuna to tolerate, but that tolerate does not mean Krishna is saying, oh, the Kauravas have committed so many atrocities to you, tolerate this. What he is telling here there is that you have to fight against Bhishma and Drona. That is painful, but tolerate that. So, what to tolerate is very important to know. So, tolerance is what? It is meant to keep small things small. We keep small things small so that we can keep big things big. So, tolerance has these two aspects to it, and both go together. When we keep small things small, we can keep big things big. When we keep big things big, we can keep small things small. So now what is a small thing and what is a big thing? That can vary from person to person. So if we are in a particular place and something is going terribly wrong over there, then we may feel that I want to stand up for this, I want to correct this. And then that may lead to some conflict. We may have to resolve that conflict. But through that, things become better. Somebody may decide, this is what is my service, I need to do this. But somebody may decide, this is going on, this is a terrible thing, but I don't want to get involved in this. This is not what I came here for. So I'll stay aside and I'll accept what is happening. So that if they feel it's a small thing and they want to keep it a small thing, that's up to their prerogative. So we can't mandate that you should treat this as a small thing because each person is different. We all come from a particular background. And based on the kind of background that we come through, we have to decide what area of the world, what corner of the world can we improve. So we focus on that. And others, Krishna has many parts. Other parts of Krishna will take care of other things in Krishna's service. But in general, the test is that in the name that surrender should take us closer to Krishna, not further from Krishna. That means, Krishna, this terrible thing is happening, I'll quietly accept it. I surrender to you. But we quietly accept it and we suffer. And after that, we are chronically filled. Why did I speak at that time? Why did I do something about it? If that kind of feeling is going to dominate us afterwards, and that is going to become obstructors in our remembrance of Krishna, then it is better to speak out at that time. Because some people have a little more confrontational nature. Some people have a little more conciliatory nature. Both natures can be used in Krishna's service. So each one has to decide what will work best for them. Okay. Does that answer your question?
The next part I asked about about Bhakti Adhikar, that
I
how
think
can one
that's what my point was, that adhikar is about what one can tolerate, what one can't tolerate. So some people may will tolerate something, some people may not be able to tolerate some things. So we see the character of Sita is very different from the character of Draupadi. That they're both great devotees. Sita is the goddess of fortune, but they're individuals in their own right. They'll act in different ways. The character of Balram is different from the character of Lakshman. Like that, we have different devotees. Each devotee has an individual character, and they will act accordingly. Now, if Krishna wants them to act in a particular way, they will accept Krishna's way, no doubt. But overall, we, according to our adhikar, means what is our capacity? Capacity to tolerate things, our capacity to fix things. Based on that, we make a decision. Okay. So, okay, last question. You have a question? Okay. Okay, whoever is in charge, you can tell me when to stop. 10-15 minutes, okay.
So there's a saying that in life we can't control the things that happen to us, but what we can control is our reaction to what happens to us. So is that starting step to of surrender? The intelligence part you mentioned, we have to take small steps. So
Yeah. So, this kind of sayings sound very good, but sometimes it's very difficult to control even our reactions to things, isn't it? If my hand is caught in fire, I may scream. I can't control that, or my hand will move away from it. But we can say that we often have less control over the thing that happens, but we have more control over the things that, the way we react to those things. So that is true. So yes, that is the difference between, say, Sattva-guna and Rajoguna or Tamoguna. So when we are trying to, in Rajoguna, Tamoguna, it's like fight or flight. So, but in Rajoguna, there is first we focus, try to understand. What am I here for? What am I trying to do? And then we try to respond accordingly. That's definitely a part of bhakti, that we don't give in to the lower modes. Okay? Thank you. Yes, Mata.
Thank you for the wonderful lecture. I have a quick question. So in Bhagavad Gita 15.15, Krishna says that he also allows forgetfulness. So how can we make sense of the loss of faith in relationship to the fact, especially when we see someone struggling with loss of faith? Should we intervene or just let it be, thinking of it as Krishna's plan?
Loss of faith in Krishna or loss of faith in a particular?
In Krishna.
Krishna. Well, if you look at that particular section, the preceding to that, this is 15.15, 15.12 to 15, 12 to 14 before that, and 15 is the last part of it. It is actually Krishna giving us the eyes to see how he is present in the world. Krishna says, I am the light of the sun, I am the digestive fire, I sustain the earth. That section is called as Jnana Chakshu. Murhananu Pashyanti Pashyanti Jnana Chakshushaha. We see with the eyes of knowledge. So what Krishna is telling over there is that even in our inner life, it is Krishna who is guiding us. But the key over there is, and there are three things talked about. There is Krishna says, I give remembrance, I give forgetfulness, and I give knowledge. Mattah smritir jnanam apohanam cha. So when he says these three things, what does it mean? The key point over there is, how does Krishna give this? Actually, Krishna, if this is Krishna over here, and this is we over here. So Krishna can give us remembrance, Krishna can give us knowledge, Krishna gives us forgetfulness. But he gives this to us based on our desire. What is it that we want? What does that mean? Say, if somebody is an alcoholic and they want to give up drinking alcohol, if that desire is very strong, and then somebody offers them a drink, if the desire to give up alcohol is strong, then at that time Krishna will give them remembrance of all the trouble that has happened because of alcoholism, and Krishna will give them forgetfulness of the intoxicating taste of alcohol, and then Krishna will give the knowledge. Okay, what should you do at this time? How do you deal with the situation? How can you politely say no? How can you be firm while saying no? On the other hand, if the desire to drink is strong, it's like sometimes we say that, yeah, Krishna is good, but Maya is also not that bad. Isn't it? So it's like we may publicly say, oh, I want to give up all sense gratificatory desires, but privately we believe that, yeah, it's not all that bad. I can enjoy a little bit. Then at that time, when that temptation comes, Krishna will give us forgetfulness of all the philosophy, all the logic, all even the consequences that we experience. And Krishna will give us remembrance of that taste. And then, okay, that pleasure is there. And then he will also give us the knowledge, okay, how you can enjoy it. So basically, Krishna is reciprocating with our desires. That is the key point. So just because I have got forgetfulness does not mean that because Krishna has given me forgetfulness, so I should say forgetful. No, it is because my desire was not strong enough. That's why Krishna reciprocated. Or when you say my desire was not strong enough, means that while I may have that desire, but I have had some other desire that was stronger. And Krishna reciprocated with that desire which was stronger. In bhakti, often there is what we want, and there is what we want to want. There is what we want, and there is what we want to want. So what we want is like the desire that just pop up inside us. So now what we want can be more like of our desires, our cravings. These often come from our impurities. What we want to want are our values. What I want is, if somebody speaks a little impolitely to me, what I want is to put them in their place, to yell at them, to be so sarcastic that they will never ever dare to speak to me like this. But what we want to want is, okay, I want to be humble, I want to be respectful, I want to resolve this issue in a cordial way. We have our desires, we have our urges, and we have our values. So desires or urges, we can say. So now it is that when we regularly hear Shastra, when we contemplate on ourselves, not just Shravan, but Nidhyasan, Manan and Nidhyasan we do, then what will happen is that these values will actually become stronger than our desires. That's how we'll be able to move ahead in life. So we need to try to help them to the extent they are ready to take help. That, okay, we can try to openly ask them what exactly happened, what went wrong in their life, or what is that they're going through. So most people, if they practice bhakti and they are giving up the practice, it's very rare I have seen somebody becomes a philosophical atheist. Mostly people become more like psychological atheists. Psychological means they're emotionally hurt, they're emotionally wounded. It's not that through a deep process of philosophical reasoning. At least till now, I have met many devotees who have stopped practicing bhakti to some degree, and most of them, I have not met anyone till now who has read the Bhagavad Gita and then read some book by atheism and said, "Oh, this atheist philosophy is better. That's why I've gone there." It's quite often something happened in their life and they had a bad experience. Maybe devotees didn't treat them well. They had some issues with the management, or they had some bad situation and nobody came to help them at that time. It's more because of, as most people turn towards atheism, because of a psychological reason, not a philosophical reason. There are of course philosophical atheists also, and they're a different category. But generally, if somebody is psychologically wounded, at that time, just telling them philosophy is not very helpful. So we need to be there to support them, help them. Of course, if they are trying to poison our mind and drag us down away from Krishna, then that's a different thing. But we can just, if they are open, we can just be friends to them, see how we can help them in a practical way, and maybe that will make them open to bhakti in future. Thank you so much. So thank you for your thoughtful participation, and we pray to Krishna that there are no dead ends in our life, that we can have that conviction, and that's how we can move ahead. So most of you saw this book. This is the latest book, Prayers Inspired by Bhagavad Gita. There are 122 prayers over there. Each of them has a beautiful picture of a Krishna deity. So in this book, I have pictures from India. In future table, we have your deity also over here in the book. I'm planning to have American deities in. So this is based on the first 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita. So 122 verses. I plan to make 6 chapters each, so that we'll have 366 for 1 full year. But even within this, there is a very accessible table of contents where you can just look at the table of contents. Whatever is your particular prayer need, you can find a prayer for that purpose. That if you're feeling lost and directionless, if you're feeling cravings rising too much, if you're feeling lonely and misunderstood, there are prayers for all occasions over there. Many devotees have told me this is also very helpful for them in their morning chanting, that read a prayer and then they chant it. The mind becomes much more focused. This is Gita for the CEO. This is, nowadays a lot of interest in the world to learn principles from ancient texts. So Stoicism has become very popular in the West. Daily Stoic is quite a bestseller. Then Ikigai from Japan has become popular. So HarperCollins is one of the biggest publishers in the world. So they asked me to write something on the Gita. So I've taken 10 principles from the Gita and I explained them using simple diagrams, and I call these diagrams as conceptographics. That concepts are explained in a graphical way. So this is not just for CEOs. Anybody who has any kind of leadership, or formal, informal, will find how to practically apply the Gita. 10 principles in this book. And it's also a good gift to give to friends and colleagues who may not be directly ready to read the Gita right now, but they may read a book like this and that may inspire them to further explore the Gita. So both these books are available. And I'll be here for some more time in case you have any questions or you would like to have the book signed. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Amit.